This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com and review. As anyone who watches this channel knows, there are certain movies I won't pay to see in theaters. DCEU movies, or whatever they choose to call them, won't pay to see them in theaters, at least not for a bit of time. Why is that? Because they don't have their acts together, it feels like they don't know what they're doing, and I pay to see movies. I don't pay to see studios scramble about in the dark, knowing not the hell what they're doing, like headless chickens. That I don't pay for. So, I'm done with the DCEU, so I have a feeling that they have some clue of what they're doing. / I like the direction they're going in. What's happening with the DCEU right now could be their plan. Don't like it. I need to see something interesting happen. So until that time comes, I won't pay to support that. I'll catch it on video, streaming, whatever. Won't pay to see it in theaters. It's my money. Get your acts together. Same thing applies to the Sony Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has gotten great reviews, looks really good, have not seen it in theaters. Partially because I don't tend to like animated movies in theaters. I don't get it either. I just don't. So, now if it happened to be on streaming, if it turns up on Netflix or some such thing, I'd watch it at some point. I just don't tend to be driven by animated movies. I like them, I like the process typically, but don't interest me too much. So I didn't catch Venom in theaters. And part of me was kind of bothered by that because I like quirky movies. I like movies with odd characters who are interesting in how they go about things. For me, that's a motivator to see something. And from the reviews that were coming out about Venom, that seemed to be Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock in a nutshell. Very odd, very quirky. And I was like, oh man, maybe I missed out on something here. Having watched the movie just recently, I have to say, I so dodged a bullet. This movie is not very good. Hardy's character, and I want to get back to that, but in a moment, is not nearly as quirky or as interesting as reviewers gave him credit for being. Tom Hardy's a great actor, don't get me wrong. I mean, I like Locke. I think that was 2 or 3 years ago. Locke, for literally the entire movie, Tom Hardy sits in a car and talks on a phone. That is literally the entire movie, and it's a fascinating, interesting movie to watch. So Tom Hardy is not my issue. My issue is that Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy as depicting Eddie Brock in Venom, is not a character. He plays a crusading reporter, and that's it. You don't know who Eddie Brock is. Venom is one of the most comic booky of comic book movies I've ever seen. Because, and I should say a bad comic, because there's no character development. I don't know who Eddie Brock is in this movie. And that really irritates me, because he does all this weird stuff, but I have nothing to contrast it with. I mean, he comes off odd initially, and you don't know why he's odd. He just is. And I don't find that interesting or engaging at all. I just find it just odd. There's no other way to describe it. He's such a badly written character. And what's most strange is that he didn't have to be. For instance, there's a scene early in the movie where Brock is talking to his girlfriend, and she's telling him, she's getting ready to go to work, and she's telling him to feed the cat. She reminds him of this twice. Why is that important? It implies that Brock, A, doesn't particularly care for cats. B, is somewhat irresponsible in feeding the cat. Otherwise, why would she tell him that? And this was a great character building moment. All they had to do was show Brock not feeding the cat. Literally ignoring the cat, doing his stuff while the cat's meow, meow. What would be the point of that? It would show Brock doesn't like cats. It would show he's irresponsible towards cats and certain things. which would be an interesting contrast with his dogged determination to investigate the Life Foundation and that type of stuff. Contrast. Characters have it. So, through this whole movie, we don't get a character. We follow him around, he does his thing, but it's just not very interesting. The CGI is good at times, mediocre at other times, but that's not really the point. This movie is not about people. I said earlier it's the most comic book movie I've seen in quite a long time, and I don't take that back. But also, as I said, not in a good way. For instance, the movie opens up with a Life Foundation shuttle heading back to Earth, which something happens on board it. You can hear it in the broadcast from the shuttle, and it crashes, which sets up the whole symbiont. Now, why didn't they just actually show us in the shuttle? Why do it with voiceover? Most directors understand the idea of show, don't tell. Clearly Ruben Fleischer doesn't, or at least in this moment he didn't, because they could have just shown us something going wrong in the shuttle, as opposed to a CGI shuttle crashing to Earth. Carlton Drake is not a character. Again, he's an outline of a character. His whole modus operandi seems to be to save the planet by making man better. In this instance, combining him with the symbiote. Now, that's an interesting goal, but beyond that, why does he think this? We have no idea. The movie does not care to give it to us either. So, it's a cartoony movie in the worst possible way. People do things you don't understand why. Because they're not people, they're outlines of people. Everyone in this movie is an outline, and it's really frustrating, and it makes this movie really boring. And the pity is, if they would have went for a hard R for this, because there are scenes where Venom bites off the heads of various people. Just do the R. It would have been a lot more visually interesting, and it would have gave Eddie Brock a true conflict, I think, because it would contrast him to Venom more, in that Venom would be perpetrating these acts of extreme violence and gore, and he would have to be responding to that. I mean, in the movie, he's very jokey about it. You just bit off somebody's head. Don't do that. It's like, what are you talking about? You're the crusading fucking reporter. Does this not trouble you just a little bit? This is just an irritating movie. I am so glad I did not pay to see this in theaters. It's not awful. That's part of the problem. I wish it were really terrible, because then it could have been redeeming in some way. Because a bad movie that doesn't know it's bad can be a joy to watch. This movie is just boring for the most part. There are moments of interest, to be sure, but for the most part, this movie is just boring with cartoon characters, and it's just not a very good film because of this. And I heard, and I don't know if it's confirmed, but Sony's going to stick with Marvel Studios for a time. They did the right move, because this movie was a quirk. That this movie did as well as it did boggles my mind. I don't understand that. And not only do I not understand it, it should, under most conditions, I would suspect, it would not have happened. This movie is not that good. So, this is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. For those of you who saw Venom in theaters, I'm so sorry. But it's Sony. Peace.